All right, here we go. The Superconnector System Module 4. Let's get into it. So in our first module, we got organized. Getting organized about how you describe yourself with your pitch, about why people should buy with you with the 4 why buy questions, and getting organized about who are all the people that you know. Organizing your contact database. You had a handout for that session. Your homework, and this is the big work I think from the program, is if you haven't done this, you got to do this. Organize your contacts. Craft your intro pitch, the answer to the question, what do you do? And write out 5 to 10 questions for each of the why buy questions. Module 2 was about event mechanics, what to do at the event, the differences between hunting and farming mentality, and expanding and leveraging your networks. In the second section, the homework was to review the networking action plan workbook that I sent out, schedule an upcoming event, invite 10 people to join you at that event, and practice what you've learned in event mechanics. Last week, we did Module 3 about the follow-up process, duplicating yourself and creating connections within your workbook. We talked about getting onto the boards of directors and asking how you can join or how you can help. Looking at your calendar and starting to invite people to those events. And of course, the whole time here, you can always send me your questions and feedback, and even 30 days after the course, I want to see you implementing it, and I can help you as you need further clarification. All right, today, we're talking about getting a contact into a client. How do you convert friends and contacts into people that buy from you? We're going to look at the buyer psychology. We're looking at the sales conversation. How do you act? What do you say? And a tool I use called the opportunity audit. So here we go. Remember, the biggest mistake people make is not starting with the people they already know. This included in the sales conversation. Start with your best friends. Start with people who have no chance of ever buying from you, but you can make all your mistakes. That's fine. You get comfortable with the sales conversation. I'm just going to step over and check to see if this is working. I got another system set up here. Hang on a second. Okay, I know I've got Lisa and Tim and Vicky on the line. So it looks like you guys are getting it. And it appears there's a thumbs up and thumbs down at the bottom of the screen. You are welcome to click that along the way. It's apparently some new applause app that you can give applause. Anyhow, let's continue. The people that you already know are the low-hanging fruit. They like you, they know you, they trust you. I've said this every time, but I'll say it again. Start with the people you know. So now, the buyer psychology is about building trust. How do you build trust? You do what you said you would do. Do as you would. Remember, do what you said you would do. And understand that some people take longer to build trust with. Some people need to have the right feeling, and if it's a feeling type of person, then you make sure you get face-to-face with that person. Eye contact, handshakes. If it's a person who needs to think it through, and they need facts and data, then you give them all sorts of facts and data that support that you are a trustable person. So the buyer psychology is, at the point where you're having the conversation, ideally, you already have trust because you came in either with a referral, recommendation from someone who introduced you, or this is a relationship that you've been cultivating over time so that people trust you. Wise person told me once, why build a brand? The answer is you build a brand to build trust so that you can win clients. Now think about that. McDonald's is a good example. You go into McDonald's, you know exactly what you're going to get. It's exactly the same everywhere you go. Same with Starbucks. Same with Google. You can expect a certain kind of search result. You can expect Coca-Cola consistent. So it's consistency, it's trust. You know that if anything goes wrong with these brands, they'll stand behind their product. This is what you have. Your brand is called a reputation. Do you stand up for what you represent? Are you consistent? Are you dependable, reliable? So think about yourself as having a brand, and that's your reputation. That's a big part of your trust building repertoire. In fact, if you really want to get into trust, the Stephen M.R. Covey, who's the son of the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he wrote the book called The Speed of Trust. And I will review with you a couple of concepts from that book. The idea of the book is the more you have trust, the more you have a competitive advantage in the marketplace because you can move quicker. You can get things done without the slowings down of not knowing people. So myths and realities. Trust is soft. And by soft, I think they mean that it's hard to quantify, hard to learn, hard to measure. The reality is trust is hard, real, and quantifiable. It measurably affects speed and cost. Trust is slow. Sure, certainly over a natural relationship, trust builds slowly, but you can build it faster. There are ways to build it faster, and when you have trust, it speeds up a relationship. Trust is built solely on integrity. The reality is trust is a function of both character, which includes integrity, and competence. People trust you when you're good and when you're reliable. Once lost, trust cannot be restored. Yes, it's difficult, but not impossible. In fact, when you have a customer complaint, they are more likely to be loyal customers after you have solved the problem for them, which would have been a momentary lapse in trust. They're more likely to be loyal to you after a problem than if there never was a problem in the first place, which is an interesting thing. It creates an opportunity to build trust whenever you have a setback or a problem. Next myth, you can't teach trust. Sure, trust can be taught, it can be learned, it can be leveraged, it can be a strategic advantage. I'm telling you, the basis of trust is consistency, where the outcome matches the expectation. Trusting people is too risky is a myth, and the reality is not trusting people is even greater. Sometimes you got to trust your clients to pay you after you've delivered. Sometimes you need to trust that people are going to be there even when they didn't confirm. Yeah, it's risky, but you hit a glass ceiling in a relationship that doesn't have trust. And last myth, you establish trust one person at a time. Yes, that's true, but you can also create trust with many different forms of media, like social media, like video, like speeches, courses. You can leverage your trust building. So as you're talking with your contacts, let's see the difference between a high trust answer and a low trust answer. So a prospecting question is one where you're talking to someone who could potentially be your customer or who could potentially refer you. You ask them, who will approve this purchase? Now, this might be a B2B conversation, business to business, or it could be B2C, business to consumer, where someone might need to consult with their wife, or they might need to talk to a friend before making a purchase. So the high trust answer will tell you the truth. The low trust answer will be short and guarded. So the high trust answer in this case is, I will need to get it reviewed by my boss, and the VP will need to approve it. If you were a salesperson and you get that response, then you go, perfect. Why don't we set up a meeting with your boss and find out what the VP needs to approve it? So that way you know the buying process. Low trust answer is, me, leave it with me, don't worry about it. I'm not going to let you in on how this really works. Next question, what problems are you addressing right now? High trust answer would be, I've been assigned the task of making our sales funnel more effective. Whereas the low trust answer would be, we really don't have any issues right now. They're just trying to get you out the phone or get you out of the room. Next question, can we set up an appointment to do an online demo for you and your team? Sure, my team should really see the solution and I'm interested in getting their feedback. Now that is a response you would get from a friend, right? Someone who trusts you, they know you're not going to waste their time. Someone who thinks you're a waste of time would say, my team is really not involved in this process, I'm good, right? So you can gauge that they may not be rejecting your idea or the product or the service. They may just be not trusting you yet. So buyer psychology, they must trust you before they will tell you the truth and before they will commit to becoming a client. So you're always thinking about, how do I build and maintain and nurture trust in the relationship? So look at this buyer psychology. What do you call them? Do you call them a person, a prospect, a customer, a client? Now, we use these terms interchangeably, but sometimes you'd think customer is more of a transactional word, whereas client might be more of a long-term relationship. Prospect means they haven't been your customer yet, and a person is a person. Now, the reason I included this is not because it shows a fairly insightful process of any kind, but the idea that how you refer to your clients or customers or prospects or people kind of demonstrates how you feel about them. So what I feel is, as entrepreneurs, we have the luxury of choosing our customers, and we get to work with the ones that really excite us and the ones that we really feel like they get us and we get them and we can really help them a lot. So what's the word for people like that? Ideal client, perfect client, great person. It's not just prospects going into a funnel producing customers. Think about your relationship with them and their relationship with you. They should trust you. They should like to work with you. They should want to work with you, not feel like they're being forced into something that they're fearful about and they have to buy or die, buy or else. So next, let's look at basic human needs. And this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it starts at the bottom with basic needs: food, warmth, shelter, safety, security. If those aren't met, those are going to be the focus. Once those are met, you move up the pyramid. So once you feel like you've got food and shelter and safety covered, you start to think about friends and relationships. Then you care more about yourself and your ego and feeling like you have a sense of accomplishment and you've got nice things and you're respected in the community. And then finally, self-actualization, fulfilling your potential, fulfilling your goals, improving yourself. So ask yourself, which needs on this hierarchy does your product or service speak to? And when the person is with you, what are they most concerned about? Which of their needs are you meeting? If your product or service solves a want or desire, it's harder to justify in the buyer's mind. If it fulfills a need, it is much more powerful. Now, before I go on to this next slide, let's talk for a minute about the difference between a B2C sale and a B2B sale. So a B2C, you're buying to an individual. This individual pulls out their wallet and they take out their credit card or their cash and they pay you. They are the decision maker. They may be in a decision situation where they have to consult their partner who they share money with or get a second opinion, but ultimately they're making the decision. For them, you are talking to emotion and you want them to see the pain and pleasure of buying your product, the pleasure of owning it, the pain of not owning it, or the pain of not getting the result. And that is, it can sometimes be a fairly straightforward process in that you're speaking to one person. When you're talking to a business and you're selling to a business, you are still selling to an individual, but their priorities are completely different. First of all, it's not their money. So usually price is not the concern. The two main concerns of a business buyer are, I want to keep my job and I want to make my boss happy. Again, keep my job and make my boss happy. Those are fairly risk-sensitive desires. They want it to not go wrong. So how can you prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are going to be reliable, then you're going to deliver this result, and they're not going to be out of money and out of 6 months' time wasted by hiring you? So that's what you're speaking to when you're speaking to selling to a business, is the individual's desire to keep their job and make their boss happy. Okay, now let's look at these 3 cycles here. So we've got a customer's buying stages at the top. At the bottom, you have the sales process stage, and in the middle, you have resources that you can use at each corresponding stage. So if a customer was, say, looking for a coach, for example, as I see this often in my coaching business. So at some point, they recognize a need for a coach. Something happens. It may be positive, it may be negative, but there was probably a trigger event. Understanding what those trigger events are is important in your business. So in my business, a lot of people start thinking about personal development and self-improvement around the holidays, around right now, where they're setting goals and New Year's resolutions, and so they're thinking, maybe I need a coach. Or at a certain birthday, they turn 30, they turn 40, or at a different life milestone, they just had a kid, or they just got a new job, or they just got fired. Those different transitional milestones happen to be triggers for my customers' buying stages. So they recognize the need. Second, they evaluate options. There are direct competitors and indirect competitors. So in the coaching business, there are other coaches as a direct competitor. Indirect competitor might be a different kind of process, like going to a university to take classes or joining a mastermind group. And always keep in mind that one option is always going to be do it yourself or do nothing. So no matter what you're selling, your prospect is always thinking, I could solve this problem myself, or I might just do nothing. So always evaluate your solution or your product against do it yourself versus do nothing. So the next stage in the customer buying cycle is to select the solution and the options. So I'll take it in red, I'll take it extra large. In the coaching, it might be I'll do weekly one-on-one coaching versus bi-weekly group coaching. So they're going to choose the option. Then they're going to resolve their concerns and decide. So there's always concerns, and we'll talk about what those concerns are. And that's where you as a salesperson are prepared to overcome objections, or at least provide information that's missing that helps people make a good decision. Once they make the decision, they implement and evaluate it. Usually right after making the decision to buy, especially after spending the money, there's a dip in confidence. It's called buyer's remorse. It's studied and it's quantifiable and it's not good. It results in returns. People buy the car, they get home and they go, crap, I don't feel good about the decision I made. I'm going to bring it back. I've got 10 days to return it or whatever. So you want to have part of your process as understanding and anticipating the effects of buyer's remorse and being there to prevent it from happening. So now let me walk you through the sales process stages, and they correspond top to bottom. So understanding buying needs and buying processes, this is where you become the consultant through the sales process. Not the consultant giving answers, but a consultative approach to buying. So a guy explained this to me, and I'll never forget the way he did it. We were sitting at a restaurant, sitting across from each other, and he grabs the salt shaker, the pepper shaker, and the bowl of sugar. And he puts the bowl of sugar in the middle of the table, and he says, "This is your product or service." Now, most people go about buying and selling like this. And he puts one salt shaker on one side of the bowl of sugar, and then on the other side of the bowl of sugar, he's got the pepper shaker. And he says, the salt shaker, that's your customer. The pepper shaker, that's you. You're the salesperson. And you are standing in front of the bowl of sugar, and you are representing this is the product. And we're just going to talk about the product, and I'm going to push the product onto you. And that's a relationship that is at odds with each other. Because why should I believe you? You're the salesperson. You're just trying to sell the thing. You'll say whatever it takes for me to get you, for me to buy the product. And so that's a losing situation, because I'll never trust the salesperson, and they may even have the expertise that I need. And when they give me their expert opinion because they know the product so well, I don't trust them. So that's not the position you want to be in. This whole networking business is all about building trust. So what can you do when you have some trust is, so then he grabs the salt shaker and he brings it all the way on the other side, and now the salt and pepper shaker are right next to each other, and they're looking out at the bowl together. And they say, a consultative salesperson comes to the side of the customer and says, well, let's evaluate this product together for its pros and its cons, and it might not be perfect for you. And let's look at some other options. Let's look at the ketchup and the mustard and all these other ways you can solve your problem. I'm just here to help you have expert opinion on my product, expert opinion on the industry. And if you trust me, then you'll believe me. And I might even tell you this product is not for you. The product that I sell is not the one that you should buy. And that implies I have your best interests in mind. So with that said, starting with the understanding needs and buying process, I'm going to share with you a tool in this call called an opportunity audit that allows you to gain an understanding of what your prospect needs. Next stage, as they're evaluating options, you must be able to articulate the capabilities and qualify the opportunity. So articulate the capabilities means what you can do, and qualify the opportunity means if they are not looking for what you have, and if they don't have a budget, and if they can't buy from you, then it's in your best interest to shorten the process into saying, thanks, let's stay friends, you're not going to be my customer. So you actually want to do that. You want to get to no as quickly as possible. Either them saying no, or you realizing that there's no deal here, so you can move on to the next one. Amateur salespeople drag out, and I can speak from experience being the amateur salesperson, they drag out an opportunity that they really should not have been spending any more time on once they realize that they're not qualified. So the third stage, develop a solution and propose it to the customer. That may be, I recommend you buy this phone case, or it may be, I recommend you take 6 months of coaching every 2 weeks one-on-one. Close the sale, have the contract ready, be able to collect payments easily, make it easy to close at the moment that they say yes, and they're at that emotional peak. Then don't drag it out with, oh, I need to send a proposal or a contract, or I don't take credit card. Just make that point as short as possible. Then implement and monitor the solution. Your goal is to solve the problem as much as you can and see what else you can do so that you can maintain an ongoing value relationship where you're giving more value than you're collecting in payment, so they want to stay with you and they refer you business. Keep customers, don't keep looking for new customers. That's the way to do it. So the internet resources to get people to recognize the need: banner, advertisement, webinars, all your advertisement, your social media, etc. To help people evaluate options, you might streamline this by having some, like a brochure or a website that describes your offerings so that you can make this an efficient point in the process. The next one is you might put some comparisons together, shoot some videos, have some tools that people can evaluate what you offer compared to others. Resolving concerns, great way to do it is testimonials, proof points, awards, success stories, so that people go, oh, okay, I can trust this, it's going to work. And those testimonials and those success stories should make people feel like, oh, there are people just like me with this problem, and you were able to solve it. So they want to be able to see themselves in those testimonials. And then finally, keeping people in touch, portal, blog, survey, comments, give people a voice to give you feedback so that you can continue to perfect your service and product. Okay, so objections. When objections come at you, this is actually good news, because now your customer at least, or your prospect at least, trusts you enough to tell them what is holding them back. View it as first a request for information. It's not a rejection. It's not a no. It's almost like saying, I would buy unless, or I would buy if this was fixed. First of all, you can anticipate what would be the first 5 most common objectives. Oh, it's too expensive, or it takes too long, or it doesn't come in red, whatever. Use the objection to close the sale. Here's how you do that. You say, so you said it's too expensive. If the price was no longer an issue, is there anything else that would prevent you from buying? And maybe they'll say no. And you go, so okay, so if we can fix the price problem, you'd be ready to buy right now. Then they say yes. And you go, okay, great. What price would work for you? And then whatever they tell you, you can take it or leave it, or you could say, wow, that's a lot lower than I thought, but tell you what, I'll give you a money back guarantee. If you're not satisfied, you get a full refund. So it's almost like saying, when someone gives you an objective, it's like, look, I would buy unless it was for this. Fix that and you get the buy. So objections are a good thing. Now, back to buyer psychology, everybody moves towards pleasure and away from pain. As you're going through the sales conversation, you want to stack on more and more and more pain and have them perceive more and more pleasure from buying your product. So that might mean that it's fun, or you're going to lose weight, or it's going to be a great adventure, or whatever the pleasure is. People want to move towards pleasure and away from pain. And the reason they don't take action to buy your product or service is because they think it's going to be more painful to do or buy what it is you're selling than to do nothing or to stay still. So maybe some of that pain is going to be financial, or they think it's going to be hard work. Once they buy your program, they're going to have to put in lots of work, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be painful and confusing. So you want to identify what all those perceived pains of buying your product are and eliminate them in your presentation, in your explanation of your service. And you want to find out what is it that's pleasurable about the thing that you're selling or buying, specific to the person who you're talking to, so that you can speak to that. I'll tell you a quick story that exemplifies getting someone to make a big shift. So a guy lives in his apartment. He's just a regular guy, doesn't like to move very much. He's been in that apartment for a long time. And the problem with moving is you got to pack everything up, and you got to find a new place, and you got to pay a deposit, and your furniture gets damaged and it's moved, and it's just not fun. Well, one day he gets home, and the pipes burst in the apartment. So there's water everywhere. He calls the landlord, and he's got to move all of his stuff out into the living room and sleep on the couch. And the landlord says, we're going to have someone in there to fix it. And they come in and they make a big mess, and a couple days go by, and then they shut off the water. And so the guy calls the landlord and says, well, when's the water going to come back on? The landlord says, I don't know. Might be a couple days, might be a week, could even be longer. I just don't know. So the guy says, fine, forget it, I'm moving. Now, what happened there? Well, first of all, the current situation became more and more and more painful and less pleasurable, so he wanted to move away from that current situation. You're going to do the same thing when you have a conversation in sales, that where they're at right now is more painful than they think and less pleasurable than they think, so that they can go, okay, I got to make a change, and I'm going to jump over to your solution, which is going to be very pleasurable and not so painful. So he can actually, the guy with the apartment, he might have said to himself all those things I said that's hard about moving. But if he started to convince himself and go, you know what, if I move, It might be fun. I might find a cool place with, I might actually be paying less in rent. And, it's not that painful. People move all the time. I've moved before. So he's lowering the pain and he's increasing the pleasure of the future state. That if he makes the switch to move out, it's going to be very pleasurable and not so painful. And if he stays, it's going to be very painful and not so pleasurable. And that's kind of the formula for getting someone to get out of their comfort zone and buy your product. So I'll show you exactly how you're going to go through that process in a few minutes here. All right, I'm going to jump over and make sure you guys are with me here. Let's see. I've got a good evening, everyone, from Lisa Middleton. If you got something to say, you can put it in the chat box. I'll just put a hello, everyone, here. Okie dokie. Let's see what's next. Okay, the next thing is to consider is when you've got someone at a point where they say, yes, I'm interested in working with you, you want to make their options extremely simple. Look at the guy on the right trying to buy olive oil. I don't know about you, but I cannot buy olive oil without a calculator because there's 50 different kinds and they are in all different sizes at different prices. You got to calculate what's the price per ounce, and then you're not sure, is this the right one? Now compared to the one on the left, it basically says small, medium, and large, 3 sizes, and they recommend one. We basically recommend the Pro. That's why we've outlined it. Okay, so now let me give you some price juxtaposition psychology. Price juxtaposition is when a price is next to another price. So when Steve Jobs released the iPad, he said, all the pundits think we're going to sell it for $1,000, and he puts $1,000 on the screen, and then he drops on top of it, boom, $497. We're selling it for only $497. Now, people had no idea what it was going to sell for because no one had ever heard of an iPad before or bought an iPad before. So it could have been $2,000. It could have been $200. But because he said people think we're going to sell it for $1,000 and we're actually selling it for $500, it makes people think, oh, it's 50% off. It's half price. That's great. I want one. So you may need to do that in your services or products where there may not be your customer may not understand what the value is or what the cost should be. So now, price juxtaposition, that's one example. Another example is you have these options. Let's say one option was $3,500, the light option on the left. And then the Pro option is $5,000, and it's almost twice as good as the first option. So you're feeling like, wow, for an extra $1,500, $5,000 is a deal. And then the next one you make huge. $10,000, $15,000, huge, because it's going to make that $5,000 look even more sexy. And you've got 3 types of people. You've got the people that I always get the best. I settle for nothing but the best. I will get the biggest package, the premium package, and you'll sell to those people. Then you'll get people who say, I get a deal. I get the best deal, and they'll buy the $5,000 one because it is the best deal. And then you've got people who say, I need to save as much money as I can. I can't spend much. They probably won't buy anything. Chances are you won't sell many of the $3,500 with half the features of the $5,000 that's twice as good as the smallest one. You'll probably sell 4/5 of the $5,000 one, and 1 in 5 people will buy the $10,000 package. So use price juxtaposition, use simple number of packages, 3 or less. Don't make it complicated because people might say they want to buy and then it becomes complicated and they don't buy. One time I walked into Future Shop, and so Future Shop, if anybody's listening from the United States, it's like Best Buy. And I wanted to buy a set of speakers, and I knew exactly the one I wanted, but the guy talked me out of it. And he said, but you should consider this one, but then there's also that one, and then what about this one? And then I had about 5 different ones I couldn't pick, and I left. I came there to buy the one thing I knew I was going to get, and I left without anything because too much choice is overwhelming, at least for me. So that's my advice about options Finally, make it easy to buy. Why did Apple come up with Apple Pay? Because buying could be easier than swiping a credit card and signing as they do in the States, or putting in a credit card and punching in a PIN as we do here in Canada. Make it easy. So what do I recommend? Get yourself one of those Square readers. There's a number of different readers out now. PayPal is everywhere. So get a PayPal account, figure out how it works. Learn how to collect money through PayPal, either by sending an invoice or creating a button. And you would have used a PayPal button to buy this course, as a matter of fact. So just make it easy. Whatever your people are saying, if they say we want to use checks, then you say, yes, I take checks. If they say I want to use credit card, you say, yes, I take credit card. Make it easy to pay you. So what I like to do is, if I'm on the phone with someone or if I'm in face-to-face and I really want to seal the deal, is collect money. That creates great commitment. So I like to say, would you like to make a deposit today so we can get started right away? Because if your program's $2,000 or $10,000 and people are going, wow, I really want this, but I just don't know, then you say, well, would you like to make a deposit? Fully money back guaranteed, satisfaction guaranteed. Of course, assuming you've got to take action and follow the program, sort of thing. So it's not like a refundable, like you're not really making a commitment. It's a satisfaction guarantee. So be flexible. Remove any financial, I don't know if I don't have my credit card, I can't afford it all right now. Just see whatever kind of barriers you can remove, because people need to be nudged. If they're excited and they're there and they want it and you know you can help them, they need a little nudge. This is not being pushy, salesy, and it's not being deceptive, but it's just saying, I can take your payment right now. Give me your credit card, I can take your payment. Okay, now let's talk about the sales conversation. This is between you and the prospect or the friend or the person or whatever you want to call it. Now first, let's talk about fear. It'll make you dirty your pants. There's a lot of fear around sales, which is why most people don't like it. They don't like to sell, and they don't like being sold to. Here are the fears. Your fears as a salesperson: rejection, failure, and death. Now, rejection is equivalent to death psychologically, because our mind says if we're not part of the pack, if we're not accepted, we have to find our own food and find our own shelter and fight off the scary animals, and that probably means we're going to die. Same thing with failure. If I'm not accepted, if I fail, if this doesn't work, I may, at some subconscious level, fear dying. So here's what you do. Use that same pleasure and pain scale and get uncomfortable with your current situation. Get uncomfortable with the current situation and feel compelled and pulled into the future state of having this new client, because you know that you have a gift that needs to be spread to those who need it. Of course, you're only selling to people who really, really, really need what you have, and so you're serving them, you're helping them. You're helping them at a level of value that is greater than the price, which is why they've paid you money. And they say, let's trade, take my money, because I want the result that you're going to get from me. People buy the result that you're going to get. You don't buy a $300 blender because it spins faster or it cuts sharper. You get it because it's going to make you smooth and creamy smoothies every morning. That's the benefit. That's the result. So you focus on the result. Those are your fears. Now their fears. They've got fears too, you know. The person that you're selling to. What if you don't do what you said you would do? What if you take my money and you don't deliver the product? Or what if you sell me this car and it breaks down tomorrow and you don't service it and stand behind it? What if you do something that is going to make me a fool? You're going to damage my reputation or my relationship. There are probably more fears than these, but keep in mind, it's an insight for most salespeople to realize that their customers are afraid of making the wrong decision, afraid of losing their money, afraid of losing their time, afraid of being tricked by you. And most people, if you ask them, have you ever been tricked by a salesperson? Have you ever made a bad sales decision that you regretted, a bad purchase decision, and you felt like you were tricked by someone? Almost everyone will say yes. And if they haven't really had a personal experience like that, they probably have seen one in a Disney movie. It's a very common thing to think of salespeople as being tricky and lying, and that becomes a part of your identity of yourself when you start selling. But you got to sell. Sales is service. Sales is finding the people that need you and giving them the things that they need. It's very important. So what do you do about their fears? Well, you have a trust building strategy, which we've talked about throughout this course. You include client success stories so people can go, oh, they had a problem similar to me, and wow, I really want the result that they got. Proof points about your reliability and track record, how long you've been doing what you're doing, who you've worked with, what your policies are, and get that all organized before the sales conversation. The more organized you are going into it, the more confident you're going to be, the more effective you'll be. And this is built on solid rapport, eye contact, handshake, good posture, dress well, rapport. Have a good positive relationship with them. So I put together some sales best practices for you that if you're new to sales, I think this will be good guiding wisdom. And if you've been doing it a long time, just see, are you doing these things, and what specifically are you doing that's aligned with these best practices? So never sell to someone who doesn't need it, even when you need the money, even when they want to pay, even when they've got the money. Don't sell to someone who doesn't need it, because they're going to waste your time. You're going to waste their time. You're not going to retain a positive relationship. It's just not good. Second thing, sales is really helping the customer make the right decision. So you are helping the customer make a decision and take an action that is good for them. This could be a definition of sales. Next thing is higher prices. Maximize price to maximize value. The more people pay, the more they care. If you didn't invest, you're not invested. Trust me, when I started increasing my prices on coaching, people started recording the conversation, going, this stuff is really good, listening to it over and over and over. And I was saying the same things I was saying when I was charging 80% less when I started. No does not mean no in this context. It means tell me more, or I'm not there yet, or I'm not comfortable, or I'm not sure about something, or I don't understand it, or there's too many options. Or it might just mean not right now. So first of all, don't take no personally. It's not a personal rejection. It's more your product or service doesn't match my needs right now, or I'm not excited enough to take the step. Listen deeply, listen with empathy. Do you know what I mean by that? Listen deeply. The best salespeople will have a conversation, and their prospect will feel like they've never been listened to as deeply as that. That the salesperson was there asking questions, and he was 100% listening and focused, and he was caring, it was empathetic. Listen deeply. It's not about you, it's about your customer. It's not about your product, it's about your customer. It's about your customer's pain. Remember that your number one sales tool is your customer's imagination, and the tool that I'm going to share with you, the Opportunity Audit, uses that to great effect. Sell with questions, not answers. You're not there to make a presentation. You're not there to shove information down someone's throat. You ask questions that guide people to the conclusion that, wow, you know what I need is your product and your service. Pretend you're on a first date with your prospect. And I would say the PG part of the first date. You are polite, and you're on time, and you're well-dressed, and you are there to impress and be a gentleman or gentle lady. Speak to them like family or friends. You don't need to be formal. You can be speaking to someone as if they are a friend. And oftentimes, You may be doing business with friends, or your customers may become friends, so speak to them as such. When they ask a question, they are trying to tell you something. This is something that I have taken a long time to learn, is that when someone asks me a question, it's not my job to give the answer. My job is to listen to why they're asking the question. Do not pitch, but invite. A pitch is, here's all the reasons you should buy from me, and would you like it in black or red? Let's sign now. Invitation is, I'd like to invite you to enroll in my program. I would love to have you as part of the program. There's no pressure. It's an invitation. Remove barriers and objectives. Listen for the objective. Listen for, I would buy it, but, and then solve the objection, and you've got the sale. Last piece, opportunity audit. Now, I've saved the best for last. This has been such an important tool in my repertoire. It's a one-page tool created by a guy named Tom Stoyan out of Toronto. Calls himself Canada's sales coach. He's a friend of mine. We met 4 or 5 years ago, and he shared this thing with me, and it totally changed my business. It gave me, for the first time, an actual process to have this conversation, where sometimes it would go an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and it would just be someone trying to suck information out of me and with no intention to ever buy. This one, I'm in control. It takes 20 minutes, and it gives them significant value. Check this out. Here's how it works. So you start with a question, and the question is what you do. So what do you need to achieve your goals faster? This is a piece of paper I would give to a coaching prospect. So someone who is interested in doing coaching with me, because what I do is I help them achieve their goals faster. And then I make a list of things that I can help them with. A better understanding of how to set goals, making more effective use of my time, explaining more effectively why a prospect should buy from my company. Now notice it's written in the first person, not as me, but as the reader. So if you were reading this, you would be thinking about, oh, I could have a better understanding of how to set my goals. So just by reading this, you start to think about, oh, I wonder how that would be if I did it. It's like when you're reading a menu at a restaurant. You're going, oh, crusted salmon with lemon and dill. You're tasting it. You're going, oh, that would be nice. So you're imagining yourself having that benefit, the benefit of the salmon and the dill and the lemon, or the benefit of the better understanding of how to set goals. So I hand them this piece of paper. If we're face-to-face at a coffee shop, or if it's over email, I'll send it to them by PDF. I'll say, you can print it out or you can have it on your screen. And I'll have a copy on my end of the line, on my end of the phone, or I'll have a copy at the coffee shop. Then, here's the process. So I'll say, mark anything that applies to you. So with 30 items here, they can mark all of them or none of them or half of them or whatever. Just put a little check on the ones that apply to you. And I'll also say, if you don't mark any, I can't help you. This will be a very short conversation because this is all that I do. And that does two things. One is it states my expertise. And two, it indicates I'm not here to sell you anything no matter what. I'm only here to find out what, if anything, I can help you with. Okay? So then they've marked as much as they can. Say they've marked 15 and they go, wow, there's a lot of these things I could talk to you about. I go, great. So if you had to choose just the top 2 or 3, which ones would you say are the most important, 2 or 3? And this gets them to prioritize. So now already they have received value because they've identified these are the areas I need help with, and these are the ones that are most important. If the conversation stopped right there, there's actually value to the prospect to have this conversation, which is why this is such a great process. Then you say on a scale of 1 to 10, so you go to the one of the top 2 or 3. And you say on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to you? Where 1 would be really not that important at all, and 10 would be so important it would change my life and my business. And then if they give you a number 8, 9, or 10, then you go deeper. If they give you a number 7 or lower, then you say, okay, let's go on to the next one. And you go to the next top 2 or 3, and you ask the same scale of 1 to 10 question. You want to find a really important issue. Then you say these words and shut up. You say, tell me about that, and shut up. So for example, they marked number 6, being more professional. And I say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is that to you? Where 1 would be really not that important, and 10 would be, oh my gosh, change my life, change my business. And he says, that's a 9, becoming more professional. I go, okay, tell me about that. Then they open up and they start talking. Now they're talking about the most important issue that you can help them with. And they're using their language and their pain points. Now you want to be careful to not let this go into a 15-minute story. So you guide it, you facilitate it, and meanwhile you're actively listening, you're empathically listening, and you want to be able to really describe what this issue is. And then you reflect it back to them. So you say, okay, so what I'm hearing is you're having a hard time knowing what to say and when to say it when you're at meetings, and you'd like to be more equipped with some professional habits and phrases. Is that about right? They go, yes, perfect. Okay. Then the next phase is to quantify the pain. So to quantify the pain, you basically are asking how much this is costing you, or how much could you make financially by solving this. So the way you do that is a very, very good question called, if we met 6 months ago, worked together, and solved that problem, how would your life be different today? Or another way you could say it is, if we decide to work together and solve this problem, and let's imagine we work together and we do solve this problem, how would your life be different in 6 months in the future? Okay, so you're essentially saying, working with me solves this problem, which is a kind of a roundabout way of saying, imagine you and me working together and solving the problem, which is an important image they should get in their mind. Remember, your biggest tool, your most powerful tool, is your customer's imagination. So if they're imagining working with you and solving the problem, and then they're saying, oh, this is great. 6 months from now, I'd be making more money. I'd be less stressed. I'd be home from work at 5:30, and I can spend time with my kids, and I don't have to work on the weekends, and it's going to be amazing. So you're basically showing them what heaven looks like for them with their most important problem solved by you. Then you say, what would that be worth to you? So now you're trying to quantify it. Well, does that mean you get more customers? Does that mean you get a raise? Does that mean you get more time? What is that worth to you? Oh, okay, you get an extra hour a day, so that's 5 hours per week working, 20 hours a month. How much did you say an hour is worth to you? $100? Okay, so 20 hours times $100 is $2,000. And then what I do personally is I multiply it out to 5 years. So $2,000 a month times 12 months is $24,000, times 5 years is $120,000. $120,000. My goodness, that's a lot of money. Okay, so then you've got a $120,000 problem you can solve. Then, now you've seen heaven and the benefits of solving that problem. Then you say, what does hell look like? And you say, if you decide not to fix this problem, and 6 more months goes by, what would your life be like? And you might say, if we don't work together and you don't solve this problem, what would your life be like? Now they're going, geez, man, if I don't work with this guy, if I don't work with Majid, we're not going to solve this problem. This is going to be bad. And then you describe what bad looks like. Well, I would be stressed out, and I'd be gaining weight, and I might lose my job, and I don't know what I'd do. I'd be lost. It'd be terrible. Okay, well, then what will that cost you? Well, I'll have to spend money on this, and I'll lose money there, and I won't make that money. Okay, so you add all that up, you multiply it out 5 years, and you can, okay, so if we solve this problem, you could make $120,000, and you could prevent the loss of another $100,000. So you've got almost $250,000 in opportunity here. So this opportunity audit has gotten us to determine that one of these issues, if fixed, could make you nearly $250,000. I'd say we might be able to fix more than one. What do you think? So now you get them thinking about what it's like to solve the problem. So you've quantified the pain. Then you invite the customer. You say, well, perfect. This is exactly what I do. I solve that problem. And to solve a problem like this would cost at least, now I usually like to not throw out the first number. They want to hear, well, how much do you cost? What do you charge? My answer to that is it always depends and I'm not cheap. Some people say I'm expensive. Other people say I'm worth every single penny, and those people are my customers. And the people that say I'm too expensive, they go to the cheaper option. And I usually like to say, well, you get what you pay for. So you can ask this question: what financial parameters would you like me to work within? And I like this question because it's not what's your budget. What's your budget? The answer is usually, well, why should I tell you? Or we don't have a budget. Well, what do you mean budget? So what financial parameters would you like me to work within? And they might give you a range. Well, somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000. Then I might say, okay, well, should I stay a little bit closer to the 5 or closer to the 10? And now we're getting closer, right? The object of the negotiation is to determine what are they willing to pay for. And if you're at the stage in your business where you're willing to discount or you're willing to invest in potentially a longer term relationship, that's totally up to you. This process is about figuring out, can you actually help them? And if you can, how much can they pay you so that you can help them? One last phrase: to solve this problem for you would cost X dollars. How does that fit your budget, or how does that fit your financial parameters? And then you shut up. And they're going to say, yeah, I don't know, or whatever. So you don't want to say a price. This is a rookie move that I used to do. Say a price and then immediately discount it. Then you go, it's $10,000, but I could do it for 5 or 2. It shows a lack of confidence. So this is a really crucial point that you want to practice. Practice like you prepared for the high school play. Memorize your lines, say it with feeling and character, and take on the character of confident, successful business person. So that when you deliver the line, your voice does not quiver. And when they say, that sounds fair, how can I pay? You say, I can take credit card, cash, transfer, check, whatever. And you get them to pay right away. Then you're in business. That's the sales process. That's it. Boom. So I would love to help you with your opportunity audit. I'm happy to send you this presentation, and I'll send you all the PowerPoints. And I'd be happy to look over your opportunity audit and help you with it. I think it's a really useful tool for me. If you don't use this tool, I recommend use some sort of a conversation guiding tool and have a understanding of the process. I'm going to bring us back to this process map. Your sales process should have defined stages and what you do at each of those stages, and it should be aware of your customer's buying process. Your target market, your target type of customer is going to have certain steps that they take before they make a decision. Busy professionals don't like to have their time wasted, so you're organized and you know what the steps are and you can guide them through it. And it's just as much of a success when someone says no sooner than wasting your time. So I'm going to open up the questions. We'll figure this technology out at one point. I was hoping to have people on here live talking. Maybe I'll invite you guys one more time. And if I can get you on live, great. Meanwhile, I'll look at your typed questions. Bingo. Invitations sent again. All right, I don't see any typed questions from anybody. I'm just going to check my email, see if anything came in by email. No. So like I said, you've got the next 30 days to implement, and email me if you have any questions. You should have my phone number as well. You are more than welcome to call me, and I look forward to continuing to support you. I hope you got value out of this. I certainly did, and I appreciate you being here as I have created and delivered these for the first time. My goal is to have it packaged nicely into a downloadable product. So this is the first draft through, and I will share with you the downloadable product when it is complete, thanks to your contributions in creating it. So one more check before I sign off. That's a wrap. Thank you all for participating, and we'll be in touch soon. Oh, I'll give you the official sign off here. Thanks for participating. We'll be in touch. Take care.